Okay, so today we're going to talk about adding decimals. Yesterday we talked about adding fractions. Now we're going to look at decimals when we have positive and negative decimals. So the important thing to remember when you add decimals is to line up your decimal point. Then you're going to follow your integer rules. So if it's the same sign, we add and keep the sign the same. If they're different signs, you're going to subtract. Put the larger number on top and then take the sign of the higher absolute value. So we'll talk about that when we subtract. Also, don't forget about when you subtract or add and you have blank places, you need to add those zero placeholders. So we'll also talk about that. So let's start on example 1. Negative 25 and 2/10 plus 13 and 85/10. So I see that I have different signs, so I'm going to subtract these. In order to subtract, I look at my higher absolute value, which is the 25 and 2/10. So I'm going to put that one on the top. And that's what I mean by the larger number. We put that on top. Minus 13 and 85/100. Now, with that blank spot right there, you have to add your zero placeholder. And now we can go ahead and subtract. So in this case, we're going to have to borrow from our 2. And that becomes a 10. So 10 minus 5 is 5. I can't do 1 minus 8, so I borrow from my 4, and I make that 11. And I know 11 minus 8 is 3. I bring my decimal point straight down. 4 minus 3 is 1, and 2 minus 1 is 1. And so my answer is going to be a negative 11 and 35/100. I know it's negative because I have more negatives than positive. Negative 25 is more than 13. Example 2, I see that I have 2 negatives, so I can go ahead and just add these together. 8 and 53/100 plus 6 and 4/10. Put my zero placeholder. I get 3. 5 plus 4 is 9. Bring my decimal point straight down. 8 plus 6 is 14. And it's a negative plus a negative, so it's a negative 14 and 93/100. Looking at example 3, it is also a negative plus a negative. So I have a negative 35 and 2/10 plus negative 1 and 5/100. So I can just line those up. So negative 35 and 2/10, I want to put it just right underneath. Doesn't do me any good to have it next to it. I want to line it up underneath. I put my zero placeholder. I have a 5 and a 2. Bring my decimal down. 5 plus 1 is 6 and a 3. And so it's a negative plus a negative, so it's a negative 36 and 25/100. Looking down at example 4, I have a positive and a negative, so I'm going to subtract. 5 and 65/100 minus 2 and 35/100. 5 minus 5 is 0. 6 minus 3 is 3. Bring down my decimal point. 5 minus 2 is 3. And then you can look at my positives and negatives. I have more positives, so it's a 3.3 or 3.30. Example 5, negative 9 and 3/10 plus 13 and 6/10. So I'm going to subtract 13.6 minus 9.3. 6 minus 3 is 3. And 13 minus 9 is 4. And I know that I have more positives, so it's a positive 4.3. As you move through on numbers 1 through 6 and you work on these, make sure that you're always looking to see same sign or different signs. So on number 1, I would subtract. Number 2, I would subtract. Number 3, I would add them. Number 4, I would add them. Go ahead and take some time, go through, try to work those out, and then come back and check your answers. So once you've gone through and worked those 6 problems, here are the answers that you should have gotten. Number 1, 13 and 11/100. Number 2, negative 37 and 53/100. Number 3, negative 39 and 85/100. Number 4, negative 27 and 74/100. Number 5, 156 and 50/100. And number 6, negative 2 and 3/10. Okay, hope you guys do great. Work on your practice.